The Ford F-150 is a capable truck. This one is the XLT 302A in the Antimatter blue metallic, and dark blue is my favorite color inside of any vehicle, and in the F-150 it's no different. I love how it looks black under certain lights, and then beautiful deep blue when you hit that light just right. But before we get started, I want to thank Formula Ford here in Pickering for giving me access to this truck to shoot the video for you guys today. You can find their contact details, the truck build details, and then links off to Ford Canada, US, and tech walkthrough video links down in the description. Pricing for the F-150 in Canada starts at around $52,200 versus $41,500 down in the US, with that pricing obviously going up depending on whether you're in the XL, XLT, the Lariat, the King Ranch, the Platinum, or the Tremor, or the incredibly capable Raptor trim. And these trucks can get pretty expensive. It's kind of making me miss the cheaper trucks. I would love to see like a $30,000 capable F-150, but I think those times are unfortunately long gone. The 302A is kind of a good middle ground. If you don't care about all the extra tech stuff, you could still look at the entry-level XL or go for the newly introduced STX trim, which Ford actually brought into the 2024 model year. As always, you're going to find the F-150 either 4x2 or 4x4, and then you've got different suspension choices. So you've got the FX4 package, there's the Tremor pack, which has its own unique setup, and then the Raptor, which is its own ridiculous beast. So there are options available, and then you can always do things aftermarket with the suspension if you need something a little bit more unique. You're going to find different wheel sizes and styles available. Similar to last year, it's 17-inch in the XL, up to an available 22-inch when you get into the Platinum 703A package. So different styles available. I love blacked out wheels. So with this one, it's got the XLT Black Appearance Package Plus. So you've got a unique 20-inch blacked out wheel. The fender badge is fully blacked out, and so are the Ford ovals in the front and the back of the truck. So if you're looking for something a little bit more unique, that Black Appearance Plus package could be what you're after. It does look really good black on black, and even with the white exterior with the black highlights looks pretty sharp too. But there's just something about this antimatter blue metallic that just speaks to me. I love it. The front end style of the truck is unchanged year over year. You've got a series of different grille choices that are available depending on the trim level that you're in. You're going to find LED headlamps, LED fogs, and then technology-wise, you're going to find the option for the forward park sensing system along with a front-facing camera. So those aren't features that are standard across the lineup. You will find it in most trim levels of the truck though. On top of that, there are some tow hooks in the front. If you are planning on going off-road, the FX4 package would probably be okay if it's just light off-roading, but if you're going to be doing some rock crawling, things like that, you might want to opt for the Tremor package. It's going to give you a lot more features in comparison to the FX4 package and other trucks in the F-150 lineup, with the exception of the Raptor. Underneath the hood of the F-150, there are so many different engine choices that are available. Last year, Ford ended up scrapping the entry-level engine and made it the 2.7-liter EcoBoost as the new default. So you've got the 2.7 EcoBoost, the 3.5 EcoBoost, the 3.5 EcoBoost high output, and then you've got the Coyote 5-liter V8, which has that naturally aspirated engine. And then there's the 5.2-liter supercharged engine you'll find in the Raptor. And then this one, which is the 3.5-liter PowerBoost. And power-wise, this one pushes out 430 horsepower and 570 pound-feet of torque, which is pretty impressive. The benefits of the PowerBoost is that it is a hybrid truck. So there's an available 7.2 kilowatt-hour battery, so you could use it as a full mobile generator if you really wanted to. You'll get better fuel economy in comparison to the regular 3.5-liter on top of that. If you want to stay away from turbocharged engines, that 5-liter V8 is still available as an option. And I put out a video a couple months ago on the F-150 Lightning. If you've never considered an electric before, or if it's your first time in a truck, if you're just looking at getting into a truck for the sake of having a truck, the Lightning could actually be a better choice for you. So that's the fully electric F-150. I'll touch on that one as we get into fuel, but you are going to potentially save more longer term if you've got an electric truck over a gas, but whether or not it makes sense for you is going to depend on what you're doing. Underneath the hood, as always, it's kind of a jumbled mess as you get up and above. Trying to change oil yourself is a little bit tricky, but you've at least got easy access to be able to top up your wiper fluid, and then there's easy access to the battery on top of that. Looking at the warranty inside of the Ford world, it's unchanged year over year. Your basic is a 3-year, 36,000 mile, 60,000 K. Powertrain is a 5-year, 60,000 mile, 100,000 K. And then those hybrid components are covered off for 8 years, 100,000 mile, 160,000 K. Do yourself a favor. If you're changing oil yourself, amazing, but just perform regular oil changes, regularly scheduled maintenance, and these trucks will last. The rear end style of the F-150 is unchanged year over year, 24 to 25. You're going to find LED tail lamps in the ride, and then you might be single or dual tip exhaust, just depending on your engine setup. You've got the reverse park sensing system here, along with the backup camera. So there are some pieces of technology that will be standard across the entire F-150 lineup. You're going to find the 4 and the 7-pin wiring harness, along with the receiver. Towing capacity inside of the F-150 is all over the place. Are you in the regular cab, the super cab, the SuperCrew? Are you 4x2, 4x4? Which engine choice do you have? There are so many things to consider. At a minimum, you can tow up to 7,400 pounds. At a maximum, you're 13,500 pounds, but that depends on the total truck configuration. I'll link off down in the description to the Ford tow guides, and then I do have a video about configuring an F-150 with some different examples for payload and for towing that you can expect inside of the truck. There are a few different tailgate choices that you're going to find inside of the F-150. The lower trims are going to have the old school tailgate, but then as you move into the higher trims, that's when you get into the Pro Access one that has multi-way that you can open it up. It's actually a pretty neat setup, but you're not going to find that option inside of the XLT. Do you like that blacked out Ford oval in the middle? Definitely a nice change from the typical blue. Payload inside of the F-150 is all over the place. At a minimum, you're looking at 1,410 pounds. Maximum is 2,445 pounds, but that depends on the configuration of the truck. What bed configuration do you have? So are you in the 5.5, the 6.5, or the 8-foot bed? Which drivetrain are you looking at, 4x2 versus 4x4? Which engine choice are you after? There are a lot of things to consider. The way that this XLT is configured, you're looking at a payload capacity of 1,570 pounds. So, general rule of thumb, if you're following the Ford tow guides, you're looking at pretty much taking off 10 to 15% of the stated max payload. And that's because every feature you add onto the truck has a net weight, and that net weight gets subtracted from the truck's allowable payload. So this is the XLT 302A, so all of the sensors, the cameras, and things like that all have a net weight. You drop in a bed liner, a tonneau cover, that has a net weight that subtracts from your overall allowable payload. If there's a truck on a dealership lot that you're considering, or if it's close to the build that you'd like to put in there into the order bank, along the first row door jamb, you're going to find a yellow payload sticker, and that's going to give you the payload for that configuration of a truck. So if you want to know the exact, I'd say go dealer to dealer if you're going to put in a custom order, and you can see what payload you can expect in your F-150. But if you're just buying one off the lot, that's how you're going to do it. But watch that video that I put out on payload and towing numbers, because I give different options and I give different ideas of what you could expect for your F-150 configuration. Because if you're nickel and diming your payload at a lower configuration, you might have to look at a different option, including a Super Duty, depending on what you're pulling. Lots of things to consider. Feature-wise, you're going to find a little storage cubby off to the right-hand side. Off to the left, you're going to find a little outlet. So the outlet that you get and the features that you get here are going to depend on which packages you've added on. This one doesn't have the available bed utility package, which inside of the XLT would give you a tailgate step. If you were in one of the higher trims with the bed utility package, that would give you that Pro Access tailgate. You wouldn't get a tailgate step, but you'd get a side step so you could still hop inside of the truck if you needed to. So many things to consider inside of the truck. That's why it's so important to work with somebody and make sure you're well researched. Filling up fuel inside of the F-150 is done just along the driver's side. Inside of the PowerBoost, it's a locked cover, so you just have to hop in the first row in order to be able to unlock. Outside of the PowerBoost, so if you're in any other engine, it's going to be an unlocked cover. But every one has a capless system that has anti-siphon technology built in. So people can't just jam hoses down there to try to siphon out fuel, which is great. Looking at fuel quality inside of the truck, doesn't matter which version of the F-150 that you're in, you are looking at just a regular 87 octane as the minimum manufacturer's recommendation. As always, all forward horsepower and torque numbers are achieved using a 94 octane. There is the argument of using a 91 octane when you're pulling heavy loads, ideally, but you're gonna get good performance either way. It's just that if you want the best possible economy, use a 91, but you can get away with an 87, so just a regular fuel, no problem. Now the question of, do you go gas or do you go electric is going to depend on a few factors. If you're not using the truck for regular towing, it could be worth looking at the Lightning. Because here's the thing. Let's say if you're spending $100 a week in fuel costs, over the course of the year, that's over $5,000. 5 years of ownership, you're $25,000 to $30,000 in fuel costs, which is pretty wild. If you compare that to a Lightning, if you're charging at home, your costs are going to be less than half of that. So overall, it could be worth it. And the Lightning has an incredible amount of power too. You put your foot down in that thing and you are flying. Now, the overall cost of the Lightning is a little bit more expensive up front, but it could be worth it if you're just going to be getting a truck for around town driving. Distance trips are okay because you've got fast charging available inside of the Lightning, but if you're doing regular towing, a gas engine's the way to go. There's the argument for using the 5-liter Coyote over the PowerBoost for distance towing, but there are a lot of things that you need to consider there. Then, looking at the size of the truck, so I'm 6 feet tall for comparison's sake, and I'm towering over this truck. Similar to previous years, there are a number of configuration options inside of the F-150. You've got the regular cab, the super cab, or the SuperCrew. So the regular cab just has the 2 doors in the front, no back seats. The super cab has the regular 2 front doors, the rear doors that swing the opposite way, and there's a smaller amount of space in that second row. And then you've got the SuperCrew, which is the full 4 doors, that's going to give you the best possible space inside. Then you've got different bed options too. So there's a 5.5, a 6.5, or an 8 foot, which is going to depend on which trim level of the ride that you're in. You're going to find different types of running boards available. So these ones are just the regular platform. The higher trims have a power deployable option. And then there are a few different types of side view mirrors that are available. So there are manual folding, like what we're looking at here. There are power folding, and then there are also extendable options. So if you're going to be towing, those are available. See there, you've got turn signals, because this one has a 360 cam, you've got that side-mounted camera. And then there's also a blind spot monitoring system. So if somebody enters the blind spot on either side, that's going to highlight to let you know. And you can have it set up so that if you're towing a trailer, those dimensions for the trailer can be covered off too. Security code, that keyless entry system, is now a dealer installed option, so you can't get that from the factory anymore, but you've still got intelligent access. So as long as you've got the key fob on you, you can push there to lock the door, and then hopping inside. Unchanged year over year, but you're going to find your unlock lock buttons. Higher trims of the ride will have driver seat memory. From there, all of your basic controls, so side view mirror controls, window controls, little handle there with some storage, high and low. You've got a series of options here. Since this is the PowerBoost, you've got the option of opening up the actual fuel door, but other than that, this button would just be extended out, and that's for your bed lighting. Figure out what's going on with your running lamps, turn fogs on or off, increase or decrease the brightness of the cluster, and then you can also toggle on your side-mounted lights too. So very useful for that zone lighting if you're working later on at night. There's an electronic parking brake, got basic pedals, different options for the floor mats. I do recommend getting the rubberized trays, whether that's from Ford directly or through WeatherTech. There are a few different types of seating material available as always. We've got power adjustable seat here, so multi-way adjust. In the higher trims, you're looking at either ActiveX seating material or a full leather seat, depending on which trim level you're in. Oh yeah. Push button start, look at that. Love it. Now, if you want full walkthroughs, like you want to know how to use all the different steering wheel buttons, go through the cluster screen or the infotainment system, you'll find full walkthroughs down in the description of this video. But looking at vehicle space inside of the ride, I'm 6 feet tall. It's so ridiculous. Okay, hold on. If we were to go from here, I'd probably have what, 4.5 8-ish inches of headspace, which is pretty solid. So if you're 6'4", you'll probably comfortably be able to sit inside of this truck, probably a little bit taller. Just recline your seat a little bit. The regular cloth seats aren't the most comfortable by any stretch, but they'll do for sure. Inside of the Lariat, then you look at the King Ranch, the Platinum, even the Tremor High Pack, the 402, you're gonna have leather seats. The benefit of those higher packages is that you've got the option for heated and ventilated first row. So if that's something that's important for you, you are going to find heated first row seats in most trims, but I love the ventilated first row seats myself. You've got adaptive cruise, regular cruise, and then there's also Ford's full hands-free driving system. If you want to walk through on that system and how it's used, you'll find it down below. Steering wheel inside of the lower trims is going to be manual adjust, power adjusting, and the higher versions of the ride. The infotainment system here is unchanged year over year. So you do have the option for factory navigation, but even if you don't want to use factory nav, you can hook up your phone over wireless Android Auto or Apple CarPlay to use Google Maps, Apple Maps, and Waze. Because the downside to factory navigation is that you need to subscribe to the service in order for it to work. So you're typically going to find 1 year of connected service, and then after the year, it essentially just moves into a dead moving map. So it would just follow you around as you're driving. So you wouldn't be able to enter an end destination unless you have a FordPass app, your FordPass app activated. Now, if you want to know how to set up FordPass, you'll find a walkthrough down in the description. But that's just one thing I'm not a big fan of, that there's no built-in navigation anymore, that you do have to go through that factory option instead. But the screen here is feature packed. Different options here. Looking at features, you're going to find the option for Pro Power on board, and you can go up to 7.2 kilowatt, but you can adjust out which power points are enabled. You can put the vehicle into a full generator mode if you want to. Yes, a low fuel, so I can't do it there. But what you're doing is you're essentially using the truck as a mobile generator. You're going to find the option for an onboard scale and so many other options. There are a boatload of different features inside of this truck. Pro Trailer Backup Assist is there. So if you're not a big fan of counter steering the steering wheel, just twist this the direction that you want the vehicle to turn, or the trailer to turn, and it'll do it for you automatically. Inside of the XLT, so the lower trims, you're going to find 2 high, 4 high, and 4 low if you're in 4x4. When you're in the Lariat and above, there's a 4 auto setting. But rule of thumb, you're going to be 2 high the majority of the time. Slippery, snowy conditions, 4 high, and then 4 low if you're doing heavy towing, pulling a boat out of water, rock crawling, things like that. There are a series of selectable drive modes, as always. Love it. Sport mode is my favorite. It holds onto the RPMs a little bit longer to give you different shifting points. But you've got different modes like off-road, eco if you want the best possible performance, slippery conditions, and then off-road on top of that. And each mode changes up the dynamic look, and it might shift you into 4x4. It might disable different options too. So I love that 4x4 screen. The off-road screen looks good. You can see your pitch and roll status, things like that. Then you can also see a trail camera too. Love it. You've got your volume controls basics here, so you can toggle your 360 camera on. You can zoom in to any of the available areas, see different options too. So if you wanted a hitch view, so if you're lining yourself up, you can see a side-by-side camera view on top of that. Kind of neat. Your dual zone climate control inside of the ride. As I mentioned there, heated first row seats are available. Ventilated when you look at the higher packaged options, so higher trims. Down low, so this is obviously the console setup. So there's either going to be the bench seat configuration in the lowest trims, otherwise it's just going to be this console setup. And honestly, I think Ford is going to ditch away with the bench seat configuration completely and just keep this setup instead. You've got your hand shifter there with an available manual mode. Since this is the XLT with the Office package, so you're going to find a few power points there. So USB, USB Type-C, that's going to be for your data transfer if you want to go wired Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, or plug in some USB audio. There's a wireless charge pad. You can fold the shifter down, and then part of that mobile office pack, the interior work surface area. So useful, you're just kicking back. Glove box here, or glove box, the armrest I should say, is fully lockable. I guess the glove box is lockable too, but the armrest here is fully lockable. And you've got a few USB power points down there. Fully removable tray here. Along the side, you've got a little bit of storage there. 12-volt power point with another wall plug. Glove box is fully lockable. There's a good amount of space inside that box. You're going to find an auto-dimming rear view mirror in most trims of the truck. basic controls for your cabin lights. When you have the sliding rear window, it's not automatic. So you do have to push and hold. Otherwise, it's just going to stop part way. You're going to find a sunglasses holder. There still is the option for the panoramic sunroof inside of the truck. I personally love the roof because it just opens things up nicely, but that one comes down to a matter of preference, but you'll find that available as an option in most trims. You're going to find a ticket receipt holder on the inside. Vanity mirror in this trim level has no lights built in. This little feller stretches out to block all of the sun that might be hitting your face. The overall visibility inside of the truck is good. Might run into a little bit of issue there with the pillar. Not too bad though. But it's good. Well, like I said, unchanged year over year. Then if we back to the second row, benefit of the SuperCrew. Like there is such a ridiculous amount of room back here, but along the door it's basics. So you've got your window controls, some storage high and low on the inside. All right, so I've got the driver's seat set up for myself being 6 feet tall. Got a good amount of knee space, foot space, and head space inside of the truck here. So I've got, on the low end, I would say probably 1.5 inches roughly of head space. You would kind of sit forward a little bit more than your 3 to 4 inches of space there. So if you've got a bigger crew of people, they'll fit back here no problem. And that's just one of the benefits of having the SuperCrew configuration. Like there is just so much space inside of this truck. It's ridiculous. Up overhead, you're going to find a hook and a light. Then you've got your assist handle there. That's the same thing along the driver's side. You're going to find some pockets behind both the passenger and the driver's side seats. Some cup holders in the back. Obviously, if you didn't have if you had the bench configuration, you'd be able to fold that part of this bench forward, but otherwise, straightforward. You're going to find a 12-volt power point there, along with a few other power points. So you've got 2 USB Type-C power points, and then you've also got a regular wall plug back there too. Outside of that, simple back here. You're not going to find cup holders built into the seats, but this one, because of the packages it's got, we've got, look at that, partition lockable storage. So if you wanted to, you could actually fold this storage down and it's fully lockable. So if you use the emergency access key, you'd be able to lock the seat down so you wouldn't be able to lift it back up. When the seat is fully up, it's locked into place. So there's the tab along the side there, can pull in order to drop down. Simple. Oh, I love that. It's wild that this is blue, but yeah, you can see the metallic paint flecks there. Looks good. Yeah, look at that. Blue looks beautiful. All right, and then along this side, it's the same idea. So lifting up, you can see the other part of that partition lockable storage. You can lock down this seat on top of that. And then you've got a tab here in order to see the jack stand. And then there's also the white spigot. So if you ever need to fill up using a jerry can, you're putting that inside of where the fuel goes first and then pouring in. You could change the tire out yourself if you wanted to. So the jack stand is there. And then the tire is just underneath the truck. But being a Ford owner, you do also have access to roadside assistance. So that's good for 5 years. And they can help out with tire changing, fuel delivery, lockout, winching services to a degree, and things like that. So it's just one of the added benefits of being a Ford owner. But the question of, do you look at the F-150 or which version do you look at is going to come down to your own personal preferences and your own needs. So there is the argument of looking at the Lightning, so the electric F-150, if you're just using a truck for day-to-day driving, because the total cost of ownership, buying the truck might be a bit more expensive up front, but the fuel savings and the lower maintenance costs could absolutely be worth it. So there are a lot of little things that you need to consider. And that was a look at the 2025 F-150 XLT. You can find all of the build details for this truck, the contact details for Formula Ford, and all of the tech walkthrough videos down in the description. But if you found this video useful, give it a thumbs up, share it with someone if you think they might find it helpful. And until I see you next time, take care. And the XLT in general has a number of configuration options. You can choose between front wheel, friggin' A. The Ford F-150 is a capable truck. There are a number of different configuration options. The The F-150 is a capable truck with so many, oh my God. And the build details for this truck with all of the tech walkthrough videos down